I voluntarily changed her child support willingly from $6,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 on my own.
NFL players that went bankrupt. When it comes to superstars, we all know that life isn't all glory. The good moments are like the wind. They come and go just as the sun goes down and the moon comes up. In this video, we're going to review some surprising stories of NFL players who are on top of the world financially, then hit rock bottom. Some of these stories will touch your heart, so hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Dan Marino's $13.6 million loss.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Would you like a cookie, son?
Dan Marino, the former Miami Dolphins star quarterback and arguably the most popular of the Miami Dolphins franchise, suffered a major financial setback in 2012 after losing a fortune in a major investment. The 9-time Pro Bowl selection and former analyst with CBS's The NFL Today had accumulated $50 million over his career, but he lost 1/5 of that money in one unfortunate investment with a company called Digital Domain. However, at the beginning, the company was significant for producing the famous hologram of late legendary rapper Tupac Shakur at the Coachella Music and Arts Festival. This gamble seemed like a sure bet, as the world had been anticipating holographic technology since the 70s when we watched Star Wars. However, Digital Domain soon after filed for bankruptcy, and Marino's 1.6 million shares were gone in the blink of an eye. It's reported that Marino's investment might have resulted in a loss of around $14 million. Marino took the loss like a boss and said he's never been a true businessman. Regardless of his business ventures, the sport of football is his main love. Vince Young's $25 million loss.
I hope me was a great example for them to go pay attention, so these guys wouldn't wait until they had to go through a situation. And I know plenty of guys that have went through the situation that I went through, and we all upset.
Vince Young was drafted in the first round by the Tennessee Titans in 2006, and after only 6 seasons in the NFL, his career came to an end. Just a few years ago, his name ran across the media headlines as he was in a financial struggle despite earning around $26 million in the NFL. News came out in 2014 that he declared bankruptcy after racking up as much as $10 million in debt and only had about $500,000 in assets. When things go this bad, we're all quick to look for the cause of the problem. Apparently, Young's financial advisor misappropriated $5.5 million of his money, and other reports indicated that Young took out a loan for $1.9 million that went into default. However, there's good reason to believe that Young is at least partially at fault. He reportedly spent a shocking $5,000 per week at the Cheesecake Factory in his early years in the NFL. And overall, his money was not exactly responsibly taken care of. Luther Ellis's $11 million loss.
When you're going to buy groceries, all of a sudden your credit card won't work. You're like, what's going on? I was like, whoa, this is real. We don't have anything. And now we're just struggling just to put food on the table.
Luther Ellis earned $20 million during his time as a defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions and Denver Broncos. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, Crimson Club inductee, and Hall of Famer who is known for his skills on the field, but not so much when it came to money management. Dubbed a mountain of a man, the 6'5", 300-pound Ellis was reportedly paid nearly $11.6 million from 2000 to 2004 alone, and had a career high of 8 stops in just 4 games. But just a few years ago, the former lineman was relying on area churches and friends to pay his bills after suffering from financial collapse and filing for bankruptcy. Reports surfaced that his financial turmoil emerged in the form of failed investments and debt. Specifically, Ellis and his wife owed hundreds of thousands in mortgage debt and $37,500 in delinquent state and local taxes. Some people say taxation is theft. That's probably a big reason over 70 million people voted against the tax-increasing establishment.
Do you ever feel ashamed?
Oh, yes.
Stupid?
Yeah. Yeah. Because how could I make that mistake? It seems so, easy now to look back and say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking?
Travis Henry's $6.7 million loss. Travis Henry is a Pro Bowler who spent time with the Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, and Denver Broncos as a running back who played 7 seasons. He could run a 40-yard dash in 4.61 seconds, even with his hefty weight of 230 pounds. However, he struggled to manage his finances, especially when it came to paying child support. According to court documents, Henry has 9 children with 9 different mothers, and some of his kids were born within months of each other. This ordeal might sound bizarre, but it's actually more rampant for NFL players than you'd believe. So, with no solid nuclear family, he was surely headed for financial disaster and the drama of dealing with all those babies' mamas put Henry in the poorhouse. In 2009, he was supposed to be paying around $170,000 a year in child support and could not keep up with the payments. And even though he paid most of it, he was still behind with $16,000 and was ultimately jailed. Clinton Portis' $43.1 million loss. In 2004, the 22-year-old Clinton Portis signed what at the time was the biggest contract ever for a running back. He was surely an elite running back for a few seasons during his impressive 9-year career with the Denver Broncos and the Washington Redskins. Upon his retirement in 2010, he had accumulated 9,923 rushing yards with 75 touchdowns, while averaging 4.4 yards per carry. Aside from his $50 million NFL contracts, he availed $17 million in bonuses.
Clinton Portis rushed for nearly 10,000 yards and straight into a $43 million fortune, which he proudly displayed on MTV's Cribs and the NFL Network.
You like a good shower? Here's a good shower.
By the time Portis retired in 2010, he still had the lion's share of that fortune, but a few years later, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. According to Sports Illustrated, Portis was long known for his lavish expenditures on homes, cars, and a luxurious lifestyle. His financial defeat, as he told the magazine, was trusting a group of shady financial advisors and investors who, according to lawsuits filed by Portis, lied to him, defrauded him, and pilfered his fortune. This sort of treachery creates violent crimes, and Portis even admitted to stalking one of the swindlers with the intent to terminate. The only second thought that spared the culprit's life was the fact that Portis had children. Warren Sapp's $82 million loss.
Officers arrested Warren Sapp after an incident inside a Valley Hotel in February.
Warren Sapp was a 300-pound lineman who was a scary sight for any center, and when Sapp sprinted forward, he became a quarterback's worst nightmare. He was a rare breed of size and speed that's rarely found on the field today. Sapp recorded 96.5 total sacks and $75 million in 13 seasons in the NFL. Plus, the NFL Hall of Famer had a cushy 7-year broadcasting gig with the NFL Network. Yet none of that was enough for him to avoid bankruptcy in 2012 and literally having his possessions auctioned off. And he had a whole heap of possessions, including a $4.1 million home that was sold for half its value. He had $6.45 million in assets and was $6.7 million in debt, according to Sporting News. And according to the Tampa Bay Times, Sapp had $826.04 in a checking account when he declared bankruptcy and $339.31 in a savings account. Among those laying claim to those funds and whatever else he had left were Sapp's ex-wife, 4 other women he fathered children with, a compendium of friends who loaned money, banks, lawyers, and the IRS.
Sapp told police it started with a discussion over money.
The one with the black hair said 3 apiece. I said, okay. Put the $600 on the table. Everybody got naked. We're in the bed. They were there. I started taking pictures of the 2 ladies naked.
Chris McAllister's $45 million loss. Chris McAllister earns an outstanding amount of nearly $60 million, then moved back in with his parents. After being drafted in the first round in 1999, Ravens cornerback Chris McAllister went to 3 Pro Bowls and took up a $55 million contract. And from that, he was able to pocket $39 million before being released, and he was still able to land $6 million the year before he signed it. Then in 2011, NBC Sports shocked his fans when they announced that McAllister was living with his parents and off his parents just for simple living expenses. It's reported that McAllister lost fortune during the Great Recession and ongoing expenses of $11,000 monthly for child support payments. Bernie Kosar loses tens of millions.
I thought it was being smart and good for the team, and selfishly good for myself, because I would rather win football games than have the money.
Bernie Kosar was a Browns legend who had $40 million before he went bankrupt. By 2009, shining star for the NFL franchise was physically broken and financially broke. He later told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that he spent 8 figures on unrepaid loans to teammates, family, and friends, and even larger sums for paying for nearly 100 school scholarships. The big-armed star quarterback had a big personality and an even bigger heart. He is the star quarterback who once threw 308 pass attempts without an interception. Unfortunately, his father, who managed his finances, didn't have the golden heart his son possessed and stole millions. Moreover, Bernie Kosar once lost $15 million in a single bad financial transaction executed by his money managers, and he constantly experienced a compendium of failed business ventures, including a doomed real estate project and a steakhouse that closed. To enhance his financial downfall, he was agonized by a bad divorce and tax troubles and the harsh realities of being a millionaire. Lawrence Taylor's $50 million loss.
There were times I'd be standing in the huddle, and instead of thinking what defense we were playing, I'd be thinking about smoking crack after the game.
Well, you gotta understand though, it didn't affect my play.
It's likely that no linebacker has ever been more feared than 10-time Pro Bowler Lawrence Taylor. His real-life financial prowess, however, did not match his on-field excellence. Notorious for hard drinking and hard partying, Taylor twice tested positive for cocaine and once claimed to have spent thousands of dollars per day on his drug habit, according to Time. In 1998, the Giants great filed for bankruptcy to avoid foreclosure on his home around the same time he entered rehab after being busted for drugs. He also started a business that failed and in 1997 pleaded guilty to filing a false tax return years earlier. Terrell Owens, $80 to $100 million loss. Terrell Eldorado Owens, popularly known by his initials T.O., is one of the greatest wide receivers ever to play the game. So aside from getting negative attention from enemies on and off the field, T.O. amassed a fortune speculated to be worth as much as 9 figures. And he somehow lost it all in an open announcement in 2012 on the Dr. Phil show. During that sorrowful televised episode, he attempted to explain to 3 of the 4 mothers of his 4 children why he abandoned them, his kids, and also stopped paying child support.
How do you feel about Monique? Do you get along with her?
I mean, we've had our moments where I've always been cordial. It wasn't until the financial situation started to change.
He faulted the media for portraying him as a pariah, which resulted in his financial downfall, even though he was forced to take a part-time job playing in an indoor football league. This is one of the deepest rock-bottom falls since he was at the top of the heap as an NFL earner and achiever. These are some dreadful situations, but at least we can learn from others' mistakes. What other NFL bankrupt stories interest you? Leave your comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more.